Hello, Mike Hagger here.
He, Mr. Hagar. So pleased to make your acquaintance. I believe you know who I am.
Doris, I told you never to call me at work. What if my wife finds out?
What the hell are you on about? Stick to the script. Don't hang up. We have a little proposition for you. Your daughter, for your cooperation, and we will throw in the regular monthly bonus to your salary which we offered you before.
What? What happened to Jessica? Who is this?
Not so fast, Mike. Turn on your TV.
You son of a ... What have you done to her?
Barney is a dinosaur from our imagination, and when he's tall, he's what we call a dinosaur sensation.
One of the most popular beat-em-ups ever has to be Final Fight. I was more of a Double Dragon man, to be honest, but there is no doubting that Capcom's side-scrolling fighter deserves its place in the annals of video game history. That said, the Super Nintendo version of Final Fight was a tad disappointing. Fans were more than a little disgruntled at some of the content that went missing during the conversion process. The most notable exclusions were a lack of a two-player mode and a missing character. Here's Cody and Hagar, but where's Guy? If you wanted to play as him, you had to get your hands on Final Fight Guy. This replaced Cody with the red-clothed Ninja Man. If you ask me, it still sucked that the trio of heroes was not available in either version. Now, if Capcom couldn't squeeze everything into a 16-bit cartridge, making an NES version of Final Fight would surely be madness. Well, strap on a straitjacket, cause an 8-bit Final Fight did indeed get released under the guise of Mighty Final Fight. The game isn't a completely faithful port of the original, but does retain the same plot. Set in Metro City, Jessica, the daughter of former wrestler turned mayor Mike Hagger, has been kidnapped by a street gang called Mad Gear. Hagger must have cut the police budget when he got elected, because he decides to hit the streets himself and mount a rescue attempt. A wrestler turned politician. I would say that's a ridiculous video game plot, but come to think of it, didn't Jesse the Body Ventura get elected as governor in the US? Well, who gives a monkeys? Let's get back to the game in hand. I'm sorry to report that Mighty Final Fight, like its Super Nintendo big brother, has opted not to include a two-player mode. Given the limitations of the NES, I am, however, willing to overlook that. That said, I'm pleased to announce that all three characters feature and they each retain their unique fighting styles. Mike Hagger is the powerhouse of the group. His slow walking speed may take a while to get used to, but you love the damage he dishes out. Grab an opponent, jump in the air, and pile-drive their skull into the pavement for massive damage. He is joined by Jessica's boyfriend Cody and Guy, who I suppose is just tagging along because he delights in hurting people. Guy is my personal favorite and the complete opposite of Hagger. Sacrificing power for speed, he moves about lightning fast and can unleash several punches in a matter of seconds. Cody is the best choice for beginners. He's Mr. Average. Not as weak as Guy, but not as strong as Hagger. On the flip side, he isn't as fast as Guy, but can easily outrun the muscular mustached mayor. In case you didn't gather from the opening cutscene, this game has opted to use cartoony graphics. An anime-style chibi look is the order of the day. Everyone has been reduced to midget size, with massive heads. Do I mind? Not a bit. I prefer a good-looking cartoon to a lackluster attempt at realistic visuals, which frankly the system can't pull off. It's not only appearance-wise where the game doesn't treat itself too seriously. The in-game dialogue is funny, with Cody often falling the victim of Hagger's fiery temper in most of the jokes. Like any decent fighting game, you get different enemies to bash. There's your run-of-the-mill lackeys who shouldn't pose too much of a problem. Thankfully, they are supplemented by other targets who require different tactics to overcome. The beret-wearing soldiers, for example, have a habit of blocking punches, but are susceptible to being grabbed at close range. The sneaky spiky-haired fellows are cowards who use hit-and-run tactics, whilst the big guys hit hard and like using a shoulder barge when you least expect it. There are female enemies too, which aren't tough, but sometimes surprise you with a somersault attack. By far the toughest regular enemies are the bearded tramp lookalikes. They keep their distance and pelt you with throwing knives. If you tire of hurting humans, you can take out your frustrations on barrels. Destroying these things reveals random items such as food which earns health, or weapons. What weapon drops depends on the character being used. Hager gets a hammer, Cody his trademark knives, and Guy receives shurikens. Some levels end with a barrel bashing bonus stage. Prizes such as extra lives and continues are up for grabs, so it's well worth doing your best in these sections. I just wonder who's standing off screen throwing these things. My money is on Donkey Kong. One unique feature the game can boast is an RPG-style leveling system. Beating enemies earns the player experience points. Once you get enough experience, the character in question levels up, which increases their health bar. Early in the game, the enemies you face are wimps who are easily beaten, but by the time you reach the 5th and final stage, the adversaries you encounter can take quite a pounding before they fall. It's therefore in your interest to level up, as it really helps in reducing how many lives you will lose. How much experience you earn depends on the move used to kill the thug which gets in your way. Killing someone with a cheap move, such as a flying kick, won't earn as much XP as, say, an overhead throw. This adds a level of complexity to what is otherwise a straightforward game. In the heat of the battle, you'll often be checking how much life your foe has to make sure you dispatch them with a maneuver which awards you the most points. Cody and Guy start at level 1, whilst the veteran Hager starts at level 3. Over the course of the game, the characters can be powered up to a maximum level of 6. Once they reach level 4, they can perform a special move by pressing down the attack button and immediately pressing forward. Guy gets a lame double kick, whilst Hager uses a charging attack. It's not spectacular, but given his slow movement, it's a good way of closing in on enemies to perform his crippling grapple attacks. Cody easily has the best special. It's a sort of sonic boom projectile, which allows him to attack from a distance. It's really handy at keeping bosses at bay, as shown here. Speaking of bosses, there are 4 different guardians to face over the game's 5 levels. Regular tactics won't work on these guys, so you'll have to work out their weaknesses and strike when they are vulnerable. The samurai, for example, will counter most of your attacks except for flying kicks. When he charges forward, if you act fast and dodge, you can however hit him with more punishing moves. A couple of the bosses will also ask you questions before they strike. Answering these questions correctly with a yes or no can tip things in your favor. For example, insulting the first boss reduces his life bar. The samurai at the end of level 4, on the other hand, will restore your health if you accept his offer of a drink. In closing, I have to say that I enjoyed playing Mighty Final Fight. Although there are areas in which the game could be improved, I think it's worthy of an 8 out of 10. Once you get the hang of it, beating the game isn't too tough, but I've replayed it several times and still had fun, which is a good sign. It's definitely an old school button basher which hooks you in with non-stop action. I'm not into politics, but Mayor Hager gets my vote for starring in a quality game. Thank you for watching, and take care.
Kisses for